It's nice to be recognized for the work you do in your community. Hi there, I'm Eddie Matthews from the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce a true gentleman and this year's Business Leader Award recipient, and that would be Rob Staffen. Hello, Rob, and congratulations. Good to talk to you.
Hello, Eddie. Yeah, yes, thank you. It was came as quite a surprise, a really nice honor, and it's just great to be recognized by people you admire and people in the same line of work as you.
Yeah, you know what? And you said it so eloquently there, and I'd like to start it off by talking about your early days, going back to when you owned the grocery stores. Tell me about those years.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a good story in that I had three brothers and a sister, and we had never really owned our own house, and we lived in Kitchener. And my dad got this glorious opportunity to own his own. We call it a supermarket, but in fact, it was 1,500 square feet. So that would compare to a variety store today or a big variety store. But my dad had this vision and concept, and it was pretty simple. The customer used a red pencil and wrote the prices on themselves. And it was pretty unique at the time because back in that day, everything was marked by the clerks in the store. So my dad's idea was that he could save a lot of labor costs and therefore have lower prices. So we were known as a lower priced service, but as my dad grew his business, it just continually added more services, and we ended up being a full-fledged supermarket. I believe that's where I found a passion for being an entrepreneur. Every decision we make, even back then when I was 14, whether you purchased, and we did, direct from Kimberly-Clark or any of the big companies, we had to decide, can we take a tractor trailer load? Where the hell would we put it? And it just became one of those things that we just always knew it would work out. And so I think that's where you learn how to be an entrepreneur. You just have to have this, and I like to say it, that an entrepreneur has some real gut instinct, and they really don't have a fear of failure. But when they see an idea, we all do the math, we all do the homework, every business leader does. An entrepreneur, the difference is their gut tells them, I think this will work. Whereas other businesses would say, geez, I don't know, there's a lot of risk. Well, we don't have a fear of failure, which sometimes can get you in trouble.
Yeah, I doubt if you remember this, but I still remember when I lived in St. Mary's, you had great selection, and I always had a soft spot for beef ribs, and you were the only one in the area that would carry them. And I'd always buy a stack of them, and you always had a great selection, for when people drive through St. Mary's and they'll see the Dollarama store, and that was the Value Mart. And like you said, compared to today's grocery stores, it was a small location, but you had great selection there. And I guess that's one of the things for being a good businessman is knowing what the people want.
Yeah, and I mean, when we started to grow the business from that 1,500 square foot, the idea was that we had to be better at produce and meat, because we couldn't compete price-wise on a lot of the big ticket items, especially when Walmart came to Canada. So it was interesting that we decided pretty early on that we need to be exceptional at the things people really want, which was meat, produce, and deli.
Yeah. You sold the operation and went back to Western to get your MBA and invested in golf courses. Did people think you were having a bit of a midlife crisis at that point?
Well, I think my wife did, for sure. She thinks maybe I went back to play hockey, but that's not totally true. Yeah, when you sell a business, you have this feeling that you need to reposition yourself. But going back for my MBA was one of the best experiences of my life, both personally and business wise, because you learned the skills that were current for the day. But I made it, I guess how to clarify that is, by the end of that year, I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur, and actually, going to work for somebody wasn't going to work for me. So I think that was a great year of just focusing on what matters in life, and that was family and friends, and and then focus on starting some new businesses. The golf course I actually bought before we sold the supermarkets, and I had been in 3 or 4 other businesses before we sold the supermarket. So the golf course in St. Mary's was in financial trouble, and it was actually one of your lead sponsors, RBC, that approached me and said, would you go talk to the current group because the loan is in trouble. And that's how I ended up in the golf business. But I grew a passion for, I guess the passion was that it's a community asset. And it was beautiful. It was spectacular. We got to build a brand new 9 holes, so the second 9. And I fell in love with leaving that legacy or the fact that we're there to protect that for our community. So then it led me on to building another golf course from scratch, which was just a passion that I'll never forget. So I think what it helped me focus on was let's try and figure out how can we leave the businesses for the next generation? So when you do that, you don't make a business plan that's 3 to 5 years. Our business plans are the 20 to 30-year plan, and you make different decisions. And I think they're really good ones. In our case, we hope to pass our businesses on to our next generation that we've already started in the second generation, as you know, with Matt and Ashton running our businesses. We have our youngest daughter joining the businesses very soon. So it's going to become quite a few more businesses, I'm sure.
Oh, that's good. Now, is that what drives you? What, for some people, it could be competition. It could be something, growing something from start. What drives you as a business person?
What drives me is that leaving a business for the next generation. It's a passion of building something that is sustainable, building something that the community falls in love with, and building something that you would be very proud of, or your granddaughter or your grandson would be very proud of that. Hey, my grandpa helped make this happen. And so to me, that's exciting. And I think what's even bigger, and it's become more important for me especially, and my wife Sharon, is and my dad taught me this very early on. We never turned down a request for a donation since 1971 that I can recall. And some were big, some were small, but it gave me this really a passion for community and for charity. And I was fortunate enough for my first kind of big appointment, I was on the St. Mary's Hospital Foundation, and I fell in love with how foundations work. And since then, I've probably helped or co-created at least 3 or 4 foundations, working with Heidi in the Stratford Perth Community Foundation. And I believe that we will be working on a few more in the future.
Well, it's a great foundation, and I'm glad you're a part of that. I got to ask you this: if you could pick one life lesson that you've learned along the way, what would that be?
Yeah, that was a tough one, because there's so many things that you learn in life that you think you would like to pass on and to mentor people with. But I think the number one thing is think of the long-term plan and how you would leave your business for your kids or your family or your community. Don't focus on the 3 to 5 years, because I think you make better decisions. Sometimes they cost you more, but I think in the long term, you've ended up doing something that's really unique and really special.
What does St. Mary's mean to you? What stamp do you want to leave on that community? Because it's a beautiful and a great community.
Yeah, we were really fortunate. I mean, and this is just a funny side note. I had made my first AAA All-Star team in hockey in Kitchener. And then my dad announces that, hey, we're moving to St. Mary's. And you can imagine how you would feel as a young kid that you finally make a team that you would want to play for. And I said to him, well, where am I going to play hockey? And he says, well, you're playing in St. Mary's. And, immediately you think, oh my God, what am I going to do? But St. Mary's embraced our family, embraced my dad, supported that business. And without that early start, we would not even be close to where we are today. But I think what's metamorphed or grew out of all that was the fact that we look at a broader community. We look at even Parkwood Hospital, for example, we worked with on brain injuries. We look at Stratford, we look at Perth County as now our community. We have businesses up north that is another community. So I think where we've grown our business concept is that we believe in communities, and it doesn't matter what size they are.
We talked a bit about Matt and Ashton getting involved. They've been doing a great job with the golf course and the banquet hall. But what was it like when the pandemic closed things down?
I'll tell you that the March and April, we were like a lot of small businesses. We were scared to death because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we could survive. And I still feel that, and that's part of, that fear of failure. Entrepreneurs do have a bit of fear, for sure, because everything is at risk. Everything you have is at risk. And I think watching all the small businesses in Stratford, especially with the loss of the festival, it's scary out there, and it's still scary out there because we just don't know how our businesses are going to end up. Some will not survive. And to me, that's truly sad because it's just heartbreaking when someone puts their life and their passion in their business. What Matt and Ashton have done that's been pretty unique and I've been proud of is the fact that each month almost they've had to pivot their business. We did not want to let go any of our key staff because we believe in the future. We believe it will come back, and it will. But we had to keep these key people. And so in order to do that, yeah, the government subsidies certainly help, but in order to do that, you really have to pivot your business. So initially, Matt and Ashton came up with the concept of going in the wedding business. That worked so well that we ended up doing a second venue, and our wedding business, and I can be frank with this, our wedding business was saving the golf business. And then lo and behold, COVID-19 hits, and golf ends up helping to save the wedding business and our whole business. Weddings are still a big part of our business, and it's these poor brides that have lost weddings now 2 years in a row. You can't imagine some of the phone calls that Matt and Ashton take and our staff. It's so disheartening to hear a bride that's missed a wedding 2 years in a row. But what else they did was pretty unique is pivot our business and say, we've got 3 incredible chefs. We needed them for the wedding business. We can't let them go. And so he came to me with a proposal and a business plan that said, we need to go into the restaurant business, and we need to have and he called it our third silo. So what he meant by that is we have 3 silos of businesses now. We have a wedding silo that's totally different business than the golf business or the restaurant business. We have the golf business, which has always been our mainstay. And now we've, with Social 31, he renovated the entire restaurant to go into Social 31. And despite being locked down, we've been able to market it as a takeout delivery, and it's been it's held its own, and it's allowed us to keep these key critical staff that we're going to need in the future.
They've done a beautiful job inside. Lori and I took some friends there for brunch not that long ago, and first rate. It was terrific. So I recommend everybody check it out once we get past this and the restaurants open up again, because it's beautiful inside.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of good news, bad news stories. And that during the first lockdown was when Matt had given our family the proposal, and we started the reconstruction. It just got open when we were allowed to open, but 2.5 weeks later, we were shut down again. So it's been a roller coaster of a ride, but every other business is feeling it. And like I said, I can't imagine what Stratford's downtown will be like if we don't get some of this, the festival and some of this tourism back.
Absolutely. Yeah. What I got to ask you this, what is your feeling towards the business communities, in St. Mary's, because you're still so involved in the community, and how are we going to move forward from COVID over the next few years?
Well, and I am a bit biased on this, Eddie, but I believe that the governments, both locally, provincially, and federally, need to support entrepreneurs. entrepreneurs drive our economy. They're the ones that have been put at risk with these lockdowns. It's not the Costco's and Amazons and the Loblaws and the Dollaramas that are at risk. It's small businesses. But if you look at the numbers, they're the ones that drive the economy. And we need to figure out a way to help these people get back on their feet. And we need them to grow and survive, because everything they have, including their home for some of them, is at risk.
Before I let you go, we'll talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, and that would be BAM. You've got that as a key interest and a few others. Tell us a bit about BAM and the reason you got involved with BAM in the first place.
So working with the Stratford Perth Community Foundation, we created a foundation called the Brain and Mind Matters Community Fund. And yes, there is a story to it. I was in a major cycling accident in California, going down a mountain too fast, which you do when you are a cyclist until you realize that that's not a really good idea. So the Parkwood Institute in London was where I ended up after they flew me home. And it taught me a lot about life. It taught me that how lucky you can be, because there's so many people that could be worse off. But what I determined when I was at the Parkwood Institute, where there's a lot of people who don't have the ability, or Parkwood is just so backed up that there was no help for these people, especially the ones that aren't like me, I guess, that were injured enough to get in the hospital. These are people that are held in that bubble with brain injuries and mental health issues that just have nowhere to go. So and my wife would laugh at this, but the day I left the hospital, I said, we're going to create a charity. And she said, no, we aren't, because you have to get better. And Julia, Matt, and Kendra, my kids, said, Dad, we're going to look after it. We're going to create the foundation. And we are now one of the biggest foundations in the Stratford Perth Community Foundation. We have $405,000 in funds. And in the last 5 years, we've given out to our community $105,000 locally. And as a result also of our partner, Cowan Insurance, who have been incredible. They've matched dollar for dollar every grant that we've given.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's such great work. Hey, before I let you go, so you've got a chance to either be in the Tour de France, Stanley Cup final, or play in the Masters. Which one are you going for?
Okay, if it was Chicago Blackhawk in the Stanley Cup final, I would probably be there. But I think second choice would be the Masters, because every time you watch that on TV, you say, how can anything be that beautiful?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Rob, I am thrilled that you were selected as the business leader of the year, and I'm hoping you and I can get out golfing again in St. Mary's, or at least use the simulator and do the Hawaii course again.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We did that last year.
Yeah. Rob, congratulations, and we look forward to more and hearing more at the upcoming Business Excellence Awards in September. Congratulations, Rob.
Thank you, Eddie. I am truly excited about the award and honored.
I'm Eddie Matthews from the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for watching.